Hello and welcome back to the Rossi Brothers Sports Podcast. My name is John, joined as always by my brother Adam, and another special guest today, Adam.
Yeah, really excited to be joined on the show today by Paul Long. Paul Long is the founder of FUNdamism, an author, a speaker, and a master of shenanigans. He's also a diehard Kansas City Royals fan and was named the 2016 Royals Fan of the Year by Major League Baseball. His shenanigan mastery has led to features on ESPN, The Washington Post, and The Wall Street Journal. Welcome, Paul. Really glad and excited to have you on today.
What's good, Rossies? I mean, what a great intro that was. Shenanigan mastery.
I mean, from what I understand, you're quite the master of shenanigans. If it's not, those words are accurate.
Self-proclaimed, man. Just ask.
I'm not much of a master of shenanigans, but I respect the game. You know?
Respect.
What are the last shenanigans you got into, John?
Oh boy. I don't know. I went to Dartmouth and there's a thing there to wear flair. So it's just like random stuff. I'm not very good at it, honestly. I like to aspire to it, but I'm not great at it.
I love it. Too cerebral.
Maybe like a really low key prank or something.
Awesome.
That's the latest thing.
I love it.
Dude, it's the latest.
Yeah.
What's your latest shenanigan, Paul?
Oh man. What's today? Tuesday?
March 30th.
I'm always getting into shenanigans. So I just did a keynote last week virtually. So whenever, I don't know, you've probably been on a lot of these Zoom meetings. You guys are doing this podcast, right? And so there's such thing as this virtual fatigue going on. So I know we're going to talk about music here in a brief while, but whenever they announce me or introduce me on the virtual stage, like I like to go off camera, like completely be like, it's just empty. I like to start off a good song, like some good energy, and just start dancing on stage, like on the virtual stage. And of course, no one knows what the hell's going on, but they're like, I'm intrigued. So I got their attention for just a half a second more, and hopefully they're willing to listen after that.
Yeah. I saw you do Welcome to Jungle intro in one of your virtual highlights there. It was a good intro.
Quality song, man.
Classic walk-up music.
That's right.
Yeah. Classic. Welcome to Jungle.
Excellent.
Good old GNR.
Well, yeah, I mean, we could talk about music all day too. Also want to bring sports into it a little bit to live up to the name, I suppose. But Paul, did you participate in athletics, playing sports growing up?
Not well, John Rossi. I played, I indulged. I was a hooper, a hyper protected by a viper. That was a little Shaq O'Neal. I played a lot of basketball. They called me Airball Paul in the 5th grade, and that name stuck with me through high school. But my skills did advance. I practiced all the time, played all the time. It was all that we had to do in a small town called Osawatomie, Kansas. So, my boy John Stonner, fellow catsuit guy and co-2016 Royals Fan of the Year, him and I, we just spend hours and hours and hours playing basketball in this little barn that he had on a pseudo farm. And he worked at Subway at the time, one of those convenience store Subways.
Okay.
And so they, all the subs that were pre-made that were not bought, he got to take home. So he was wise to the game and always made an excess of subs. And so the only break that we would take from basketball in the barn were just munching down on Subway subs that he had made.
Wow. So have you had a Subway sub since, or is it something like you just can't eat another Subway sub in your life now because you've had so many?
That's a great question. Being a Kansas City guy, I prefer Mr. Goodsense. I like the bread. And I've gotten onto a Firehouse Subs kick recently. But, I travel a lot for work, and every now and again, the only option I have is a Subway, at which point I'll indulge.
Okay.
Gotcha. Nice, yeah.
Chipotle Southwest sauce, I highly recommend. That's the only 2 cents I have to add.
For sure. I love Chipotle sauce. I love Chipotle everything, but adding a little spice to the sandwich is never a bad idea.
What was the one you said is the Kansas City, not the Firehouse, but the one you mentioned before that?
Oh, Mr. Goodsense.
Mr. Goodsense. All right, I have to check that out.
Which begs the question, Adam, you were talking prior to recording,
Right.
that you're not from Kansas City. Where do you guys hail from?
Correct. Yeah. The great town of
we hail
Frostburg,
from
Maryland.
the mountains of Western Maryland.
Yeah. Is that where you are now?
No.
Neither of us. No.
Yeah. I'm right here
I'm
in
currently
KC.
in Vermont.
Okay. Awesome.
But
All
hey,
right. Well,
yeah.
I
Virtually
respect the
together.
game. And yes, still together virtually. I still I appreciate your willingness to not just educate yourself on the culture, Adam, but accept it. So I am a huge sports advocate, ambassador of our city. Like, I love Kansas City, everything. I'm wearing a George Brett shirt currently, which we could talk about. But John, going back to your question, man, like basketball was my everything. And so even after I graduated high school, I never played in college. I was, two-time intramural champ NBD at UMKC. Wow. I played for hours and hours and hours on end. I'll never forget. Matter of fact, I just drove by this location the other day. We'd play for so many hours, like between classes or after school, that one day I was coming home from UMKC and I was driving past this Mission Mall. There's a little Wendy's over there. And I had like no shoes, no socks on, basketball shorts, no shirt on. I don't think I'd eaten all day. And it was the only car accident I've ever gotten into in my life. I was so emaciated and so like probably dehydrated and tired from playing ball all day. I just skated through a red light and T-boned this car. And luckily no one was hurt. But dude, that was the grind. I had to put all my effort and energy into basketball. Didn't even know how to drive a car.
Everything. Yeah.
Well, so you drove past the spot recently where you got in the accident.
That's
It was
exactly
a while ago.
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Told my kids, respectfully, 8 and 4. And they said, well, Dad, why'd you run the red light? And, I had to make up some kind of lie. We all make mistakes though.
Well, tell them you were balling too hard. Yeah.
That's right.
He was hooping.
Balling too hard. I don't know.
Yeah. Does have you developed some of your sort of foundations of fun through sports, through playing basketball? Like, is that something that you kind of that blossomed while on the court, perhaps?
I think it gave me the opportunity to channel some of my energy. I was on TikTok. Yeah, prime for you guys' demographic. You guys look like TikTokers, aren't you?
Oh god, I haven't touched that.
The ironic thing is, I like to tell people I'm 95 years old when it comes to technology. I have Facebook and that's it.
Man, I respect it.
I'll get texts from my friends with links to TikToks, and I'm like, I can't open this thing because I don't have the app.
I don't know.
This is my phone right here, Paul. Dinosaur.
Is that nice? We're going to put that on the shelf and we're going to come back and get that here in a bit because we gotta talk about that. So related to TikTok, I saw this link that somebody had sent me, just like you said, John. It was my cousin. And it was a speaker, and he talked about how, everybody wants you to change your behaviors, change your personality, change what you're into. And it's very difficult for humans to change, but it's very easy to channel, right? And so he gave some specific examples. Like, people oftentimes see me and my fun personality, coming back to your question, and they say, well, that's unattainable. Like, that's not me. I'm more anxious or I'm more stubborn or whatever it may be. Well, what the speaker talked about, he was like, listen, if you're anxious, I'm not asking you to change. I'm asking you to channel. That anxious energy is the same as excited energy. So rather than being anxious, how do you get excited? It's like, what's going to happen today? Or what's going to happen today? Right? Like, if you're a stubborn individual, that means that you could be committed. If you're manipulative, well, that means you could be motivational. And so, there's a number of different ways that you could channel your energy rather than changing. So revisiting your question, sports gave me the ability to channel some of the energy that I already had in me. Like, I was never a great player, but I put forth a lot of effort in getting good. And it became more of an opportunity for me to connect with like-minded individuals. And the cool thing is sports, and this is, I know, super cliche, we talk about it all the time. But it's super important right now, like all the different demographics of people, no matter what race, no matter what background, no matter what, poverty level or, it doesn't matter where you hail from. Like when you get into this room or when you have basketball or football or you're in a locker room, all of a sudden, like everybody's the same and we're all boys or girls or, teammates. And so I think it definitively gave me a perspective on how to connect with others and how to seek commonality rather than seeing differences.
Cool.
Awesome.
The great glue sports is. I got to ask if you're such a Kansas City sports supporter, but you were a baller, basketball was your favorite sport. Kansas City is not a professional basketball team. Who do you support hoop-wise then? You just straight KU, or who are you going for?
So it was all KU all day, every day. And then from an NBA perspective, because we didn't have a team, I just kind of followed the best players or teams that resonated with me. So I'm a huge LeBron fan. And I respect the game of Michael Jordan. He was amazing. I never became a huge Kobe fan. I never liked Kobe at all until he passed. And I started hearing more of the stories about him as an individual. Mm-hmm. But by and large, I love the hate that LeBron gets, and it makes me like him. Like I love that somebody, here's what I love about him. I love that he had so many expectations on him. Like he's going to be one of the greatest basketball players of all time. And he's going to come in and he's going to do the dang thing. And, he's going to thrive in whatever system, blah, 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 blah. And then he came into the league and never skipped a beat. Like he did all of those things. And so the people that hate on him are just hating because they're trying to compare him to Michael Jordan or, I find that that's kind of what we do in society right now. If something doesn't align with our opinion or we don't feel the need to align with others, we have to find some flaws or something terrible. And remove LeBron in sports. I feel like that's society right now.
Well, as a Cleveland Cavaliers fan, I feel slightly, maybe you shouldn't listen to some of our previous podcast episodes and some of the stuff I've said on there. But
he brought you a title, man. What else do you want?
It's true.
He left. He came back. He did exactly what you guys set the expectation to do. Like, how could you be mad?
I guess I'm not mad, but. Yeah,
There's a lot of baggage there.
There was a ton of baggage. I don't disagree with that. And
I would say that
go ahead.
I was gonna say I agree with the point of like respecting, like he was hyped up so much for like his entire life. You have to respect how like amazing he is with all of that pressure like on top of it too.
Sure.
So yeah,
for sure.
Oh, yeah.
With Cleveland specifically, Adam, I definitely understand there was a lot of heartache, a lot of burnt bridges, a lot of challenging situations. But I've also heard some terrible stories about the owner there in Cleveland as well. So it's like, and that's one thing that sucks about everything. And I know that this is the great unifier that sports is, that we could take any sports analogy and apply it to life. Like there's always two sides to every story. Of course, he was vilified in Cleveland, but we have no idea what was going on behind the scenes to kind of drive him out and make the decision and, all of that stuff. So I respect the game and I respect your heart, dude, because if somebody did that in Kansas City, I'd be upset. But I will say, if dude came back and he won the title or a championship or a World Series for Kansas City after 29, 30 years, like we experienced, and I know that you guys experienced, I'd be like, screw that, dude. That's water under the bridge. I respect that, dude.
I will say this. Off the court, I have a lot of respect for LeBron James. Like, I like what he does off the court. I think he's generally a good guy. I'll give him that.
All right. And that
which is more important.
I agree.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest reasons why I like him. And I was remiss not to address it. Good call.
Cool. Well, you also seem like a pretty good dude. So you do, of course, the FUNdamism thing. So, many Fortune 500 companies, check out the FUNdamism website, have called upon you to motivate and inspire. Has there ever been any professional sports teams or organizations that have called upon your services, Paul?
Not yet, but it's a young age. We're still in the infancy stages, to be honest, of our career, or my career. I've been doing this for about 4 years. Coincidentally, I was playing pickleball pretty regularly last year.
Ooh, nice.
And got connected with a dude that works with the Chiefs. And right before the pandemic hit, he was like, "Hey, I want to connect you to the director of player personnel." And we got connected. And I had some hope that might happen. But truth be told, whether it does or doesn't, man, there is a number of different folks that need a message right now of how to focus more on what's good as opposed to what isn't. And that's essentially what we do. From a sports perspective, it seems as though one thing that, in my experience, the folks that I've gotten the opportunity to connect with that are athletes or, in the limelight regularly, is they have no idea why people are wanting to connect with them. They don't know if they, genuinely want to be their friend, or they want to leverage them to get their brand further. And I couldn't imagine what that life would feel like and be like, and always being skeptical about why somebody is connecting with you or what their intent is. So circling back to your question, addressing that would be amazing for me, to have that conversation with folks and to try and find ways to see the good in people while still having your guard up to a certain extent and not being naive.
Yeah, tough line to tread, I'm sure. Man, Paul, you remind me of another Kansas Citian I have been reading about a lot recently by the name of Buck O'Neil. It's a lot of your positivity and messages. I'm like, man, I feel like Buck and you would get along really, really well. Did you ever have the opportunity to interact at all with Buck?
First and foremost, that is the greatest compliment you could give a Kansas Citian. So I see what you're doing here, man. You're just buttering me up to really deliver the hard question. I never got the opportunity to meet Buck O'Neil, but Buck was always in the news, always in the community, always, out doing something for somebody else, carrying on the legacy of the Negro Leagues, or, just showcasing a genuine interest. One of the greatest storytellers that I've ever had the pleasure of hearing. And so while I never met him personally, we have a ton of mutual friends. Obviously, Bob Kendrick of the Negro Leagues Museum has been on the podcast, the FUNdamism podcast that you referenced earlier. And he's kind of taken that storytelling role that Buck had very, very well and made it his own. But I got the opportunity to be in the Buck O'Neil legacy seat.
Super cool.
For some of the shenanigans that we got into, raising money for pediatric cancer research and a celebrity pickleball tournament that we got the opportunity to run. So the only red chair in all of Kauffman Stadium, I got the opportunity to sit in, Jumbotron, all that stuff. And the kids got to come with us. And it was an amazing experience. It's probably one of my proudest accomplishments.
Well earned. That's really
Absolutely,
cool.
Yeah.
That is amazing. And that's a perfect segue into why you were there in that red seat, at least a little bit. So you talked about raising money for pediatric cancer research, which is amazing. But, for some of our listeners/viewers who may not be familiar, could you talk a little bit about what the catsuit guys were/are, what was going on there?
Yeah, for sure. So, if you're not watching this on YouTube, first of all, subscribe to the Rossi brothers, because they're doing big things. But
here it is.
I brought the goods for you. I mean, I'll make the story brief. I tell this in a lot of keynote experiences. So my buddy John Stoner, the aforementioned John Stoner, calls me one day excitedly, "Dude, did you realize that they make wrestling singlets with cat profile pics on them?" I'm like, "John, how could I possibly know that?" He says, "Good point, Paul. I bought two." So I go, "John, what in the heck are we going to do with these?" And he goes, "I don't know, but it's going to be awesome." So roughly 2 weeks later, the year is 2014. Derek Jeter's retiring from baseball. He's traveling all around the country on his farewell tour, and every stadium's doing something silly. Fans have, signs or poetry or gift baskets, cards, songs. So John calls me. He's like, I figured it out, man. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to wear these wrestling singlets with cat profile pics on them out to the stadium. And we're going to come up with all these cat profile, like these cat pun signs that read things like Derek Jeter, one classy cat, and pursuit of the World Series, and strike him out right meow. So I said, John, this is perhaps the greatest idea you've ever come up with in the many, many years that we've been friends. I'll do it on one condition and one condition only. We have to call ourselves the Designated Litter, because there's so many. So that's exactly right. So, we go out to the stadium, chaos ensues. I mean, we take hundreds and hundreds of photos. We go on live TV the next day, Jumbotron multiple times, just getting it, dancing. Full page article, the Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, all the, media outlets that you referenced in my intro. And it, connecting the thread to pediatric cancer, it connected me to this boy who at the time was going through this terrible battle, at the age of 6, diagnosed with a very rare form of pediatric cancer called Ewing sarcoma. And I learned that he was just a diehard Royals fan. And at the time, it was 2014. The Royals hadn't made a postseason in 29 years. So anybody that had affection for the Royals and had a story behind them was just getting a lot of run. There was not enough Royal stories in the news because we were just waiting for this day. And so I connected with Noah. Noah Wilson was the boy's name. And we just sparked up a friendship, and it created a lifelong kind of goal of mine to attach myself to pediatric cancer research and become an advocate. I'm the board president for Noah's Bandage Project, a 501c3 created by this little boy that collects fun bandages for kids going through the struggle, and pediatric cancer funding that stays at Children's Mercy Hospital in Kansas City.
Wow, fantastic. So you still work with Noah?
Yes, sir. Well, I don't work with Noah. So unfortunately, he lost his battle with death, which we all will. But he won his battle with life, as the story goes, because he created a lasting legacy that has really created a groundswell, and not just connecting people to this cause. He's collected over his legacy, has raised over $1 million in pediatric cancer research. 7 million, I think, is the number now, individual bandages for kids going through the struggle, changed the way that hospitals order supplies, and kind of like I said, created a groundswell. Like, the relationships that came out of just this whole catsuit experience, whether it's Noah or his parents, Scott and Deb Wilson, or Danny Duffy, a starting pitcher for the Kansas City Royals, who then connected me with like Brad Keller at, Volley Llama. And, I just met so many amazing people as a result of this boy who, at the worst moment in any person's possible life, took it as an opportunity to help others. And kind of like sports, man, like it brings us together. So do great causes.
Boom.
Yeah.
Boom.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, amazing. Over $1 million. It's like, kudos to a good cause. And yeah.
And we've only just begun.
Yeah.
That's right.
Amen.
Man, puts things in perspective too. It makes you feel like, wow, my problems really aren't that terrible, man. Like, it's just it's all like you said, like, what can you do with what you have? And
well, Adam, that's
channeling that energy, channeling the energy. Yeah.
That's it. And that's a great point that you picked up on, perspective, like, because that's what we, that's the message, in any keynote, is if a 6-year-old, 7-year-old, when he passed, can take the darkest day of his life, like the worst moment of any parent's life, and create this groundswell and all the things that he did as a result, like, what freaking excuse do we have? Like,
right.
There's always somebody else in the world that's got it worse than you. And quite honestly, they're handling it a little better. So let's jump on a Rossi Brothers podcast and have a good time.
Yeah.
Amen. You said it. You mentioned meeting people, Paul. You and John, you aren't the only Kansas City Royals fan celebrities, shall we say, out there. I've read about a few others. Have you ever had the opportunity to meet maybe Moose Man, or the Royals Pope, or maybe even the KC Superman? He might be a little more Chiefs than Royals, but have you ever been able to meet any of these other celebs?
all but the Pope. Coincidentally, Craig is the gentleman that you referenced who used to drive the Moose Mobile, Craig Rookstool. He sits on the board of Noah's Bandage Project with me.
Oh, wow.
So I get to see him regularly. And when he was driving the Moose Mobile, he used to give tours. And so I'll never forget, like, did you ever see that? Did you see the thing that he sported?
I didn't see the commercial. I saw pictures of him and read an article, but I didn't see it. I know he was on a commercial, but I didn't see it.
So he had this amazing, like big, huge, like off-roading Toyota thing with a big old trailer. And we would have tailgates out there, and he would pick up, kids and take them on tours of Kauffman Stadium, and music is just blaring. He's just a great, great dude. The KC Superman, I've met him multiple times. He, not exclusive to just the Royals. He's just a dude that's always out in the community. He's been to the Noah's Bandage Project 5K multiple times. His whole deal is running. Like he loves to run. And so he runs for a cause, and he's a great guy. Super, super awesome. I want to say at one point in time, he was a lawyer, but that may be my ignorance speaking. So don't hold me to it, but
we'll take you to court over it.
Yeah, exactly. At the end of the day, man, like anybody, that was the power of sports, not just the sport or the power of 2014, 2015, but like when, no matter what's going on in the world, like your team all of a sudden for the first time in 29, 30 years is seeing some level of success. There wasn't a person on the street, dude. Like if you were wearing blue, you made eye contact and you nodded, or you gave a high five. Pandemic days, right? It was like, and even if you weren't a Royals fan, it was like the city was just bleeding blue. Everybody was just completely unified and saying this was the most awesome moment that we had ever experienced from a sports perspective. And, I recall in 2014, we went to the World Series, Game 7 versus San Francisco. And I remember we lost, and, you'd feel dejected if you lost. And that feeling, that emotion was in there. But the ride was so amazing. Like we were still giving high fives on the way out. And I'll never forget that just sense of elation, that whole, dude, I can't believe we just experienced that. We've been reading the Kansas City Star for the last 15 years, wondering who the next, up and coming minor league prospect was going to be, saying year after year after year, this is it. This is going to be the one. Hell, Adam, as a Cleveland Cavaliers fan, this is the year, bro. This is the year. We got LeBron. So, and then it finally happened, and it was like, wow. And the fact that we then went back 2015, it was unbelievable.
That was a crazy time in sports and in Major League Baseball. John and I have talked about this before, where you had, for whatever reason, these small market teams that had actually did great things for this little blip of time. John, I know, is a huge Pittsburgh Pirates fan. I also support the Pirates, and I think there are a lot of similarities between the Pirates story and the Royals. Of course, the Pirates didn't quite get it done the same way as the Royals did.
2015 was like the peak Pirates year of their rise too. And so, obviously I would have preferred if Pittsburgh could have, done something then. But yeah, it's good to see another, right, like a Royals or a Pirates or someone ended up winning that year anyway.
For sure.
But yeah, sorry. The Orioles as well. Yeah, I went back and saw, I'm reading the history of the Royals. So in 2014, I forgot the Royals played the Orioles in the ALCS. I thought, the Orioles were good in there too. I remember in the good old Cumberland Times News, there was some thing one year they were comparing. No, it wasn't Times News. It was on ESPN, I saw. But it was some thing that you didn't want to be known for. It was like, I don't know, record losing streaks or losing seasons in a row in the major leagues. And at that time, there were three
not making the playoffs or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And there were three teams that showed on there: the Pirates, the Orioles, and the Royals.
Yeah.
I remember thinking, I had no idea about anything in Kansas City at the time, but I thought the Royals, they're kind of like with us together, in
sure.
This Pirates Orioles sadness.
And to put things into perspective, I mean, in the 80s, we were really good. I mean, like the Yankees and the Royals were always vying for, position. And then the bottom fell out of it, and we were terrible for a long time. And I could name the most obscure Royals players that I thought were going to be just phenomenal. And like one being Angel Baroa, who won Rookie of the Year. And we thought, oh my gosh, we're on to something. And then never amounted to anything ever again. And Mike McDougal, who came in throwing 102, 103 miles an hour, we're like, oh my gosh, this is our year. And then we would consistently lose. There was a time where we lost 4 out of 5 seasons. We lost 100 games. And I mean, that is a feat. That is terrible. But to your point about the Pirates and the Orioles, like I remember watching, the Pirates growing up, like Andy Van Slyke back in the day, and and the yellow and the black. Everybody, like it was a cult following. Everybody loved the colors. And then when the Orioles got good in 2014 as well, I mean, we had a little bit of beef. And I remember there's a famous shirt here that was a play on the Chris Brown song. It was "These O's ain't loyal."
Nicely done.
Yeah.
I do, as much as I support the Pirates, I really do not support the Orioles. So that's good to hear. I was really glad the Royals won that series back in 2014. I was nervous there the Orioles are going to get over the hump in the World Series.
In that time period as well, right? 2016. The designated litter, you and John were co-awarded as the Kansas City Royals fan of the year. So just like, what was that experience like when you got that? How did you like get the news? And what was that sort of moment, I guess? So really the 2016 honor, it really hailed from or stemmed from 2015, right? And so after 2015, Major League Baseball decided that it would be cool to do these social contests where they identified the respective fan of the year for each team. And so MLB were the ones that actually identified who was in the running. So in Kansas City, there were 4 of us that were basically, vying for this title of 2016 fan of the year. And what ended up happening was you had to vote. So it was a hashtag contest, like, fan of the year. Was it Royals FOTY 2016 or something like that? Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. So you had to vote like that. And so because John and I were known, not just because of the shenanigans and being fun loving and, like it's one thing to go out and just wear a singlet, which we were doing. And it was like, there was no rationale behind it. We were just idiots, just having a good time. But the stories that came out of that, like that whole left field, people would come and they would sit in left field out by the Miller Bar. And we'd get emails from individuals. Like we got an email from this gentleman in Iowa that his wife was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. And they wanted a whole weekend where they didn't have to worry about anything. They got a babysitter for the kids and they drove down from Iowa to take in a couple Royals games. They sat in the designated litter. They got to sit right, behind John and I, a couple of rows. And they sent the nicest email, saying that the way that we were respectful and created fun and the ability to connect with others and showcase a genuine interest. It really, for just a brief moment, took, his wife's mind off of all the stuff that she was going through. So we weren't just ambassadors of the sport, but rather like just embodying this fandamism stuff that you referenced earlier, Adam, just like having a good time, focusing on what's good as opposed to what isn't. So as the story goes, we had this social media contest, and because we were very active in charitable, means and terms, we had run into several pretty big names in Kansas City, one being Travis Kelce at the Eric Berry. I want to say it was a backpack campaign where we're collecting backpacks and handing out for kids in junior high and high school. And so he, he's like, "You guys are the catsuit guys?" "Oh, I'd totally do that." I said, "No, you wouldn't." He was like, "Oh, no, I would." I was like, "Good. We got an extra one, bro." And so I DM'd him one time on Twitter, and, we start chatting it up just very informally. And then this contest comes out and he quote tweets it and says, "Hey, vote for our guys, the catsuit guys." And as a result of that, I mean, that's great exposure. We end up winning. And so, I reach out to him via DM and I was like, "Dude, we couldn't have won this without you." And he said,
you guys are tremendous. I love what you're doing in the community. If I could ever help you, here's my cell phone number. And so like to have somebody like that recognize us and then share his number. I didn't even ask for it. It was like, oh my gosh, this is a great feeling. And, but going back to why do people connect or, what do these individuals ultimately think that people want from them? I never abused that. Like I never reached out and said, hey, can I do this? Can we do this? Can we connect? It was like a happy birthday text from time to time and whatnot until I finished my book and asked them to write the forward. But that's the story, man. We ended up winning as a result of Travis Kelce retweeting it and all the good that we put in the community and the shenanigans that we got into, and all the while having fun while supporting a team that hadn't done anything for 30 years.
Yeah. Did you get like a trophy or anything? What was your award?
Yeah. So we got to go on this. First of all, we got to go down on the field at Kaufman, which was awesome, and got to take pictures with Slugger and all that jazz. We got this Louisville Slugger Fans of the Year bat 2016. See right there, it says genuine. So it's
genuine.
It's yeah.
It's the thing. Wow.
Not an illegitimate 2016.
That's exactly right. But more importantly, it just gave us a platform. Like we had always been doing the same things that we'd always been having fun and in our minds doing good for others. And, all of a sudden we got a platform and people could see that it was authentic and it was real. It was 100% genuine. Like the bad.
That's great. Reminds me of something I heard Muhammad Ali. I didn't hear him say it, but I saw a quote from Muhammad Ali. He said something to the effects of like, it's not about boxing. Like I could do whatever it is. Like I really don't care about boxing. Boxing is just a platform for me to, work for much more important things in life. I thought, wow. I mean, I kind of view him as the greatest boxer ever, but for him to say something like that, like, yeah, it's about so much more than just boxing.
For sure. As cool. You should see him that way. And I would say that moment wearing the catsuit and meeting Noah and all that stuff, it really catapulted my speaking career because, that's a story that I tell all the time. It gave me confidence. It provided me a platform, like you said. And I definitively wouldn't be on the Rossi Brothers podcast today if it wasn't for the moment that we sported those wrestling singlets with cat profile pics on them, with our kibbles and bits hanging out for the whole world to see.
You never know what crazy heights the cat suits might take you to.
That's exactly right. Cleveland Heights.
So the Royals this year, what are your predictions? What's your outlook for them?
So unlike the years past where I was like, dude, this is our year. And deep down in our gut, we knew it wasn't. I am as excited for this Royals team as I have been for any in recent memory. And a lot of folks, they point to our starting pitching that we've never really had historically, unless you look back to like Gubazar and Saberhagen and all those studs. Like we have some young up and coming pitching that is going to be amazing, but that's not even what I'm most excited for. Like our lineup is sick. Like when I look at, so they just sent down Nicky Lopez to start the year in AAA, which I love Nicky Lopez. He's a great guy. He was a finalist for a Gold Glove last year. But man, there's just a hole in his bat. Like he's just, he needs some more work down there. Well, the byproduct of sending him down is I think and hope that Kyle Isbell will make the team, who's our top 5 prospect and can just rake. So with him and Santana and, Salvi's a consistent staple. Benny over from the Red Sox. If Alberto Mondesi, does anything to what he's capable of, dude, I just think top to bottom, we have the opportunity to just absolutely rake.
Yeah, a lot of potential there. It's also like a division with potential too. Like there's
for sure
there's so much space in the AL Central. Like
yes. Well, with the exception like at the top, the White Sox are like pretty darn amazing.
Yeah. That's true. But like otherwise it seems like a prime breeding ground for an emergence from a team like that. Yeah.
I think in my personal opinion, I think the wild card or a wild card spot is totally within the cards.
Yeah, absolutely too. And we'll see too. I don't know what sort of changes are going to stick from this past pandemic season of like craziness in what the postseason looked like and all that. But
For sure. Well, I don't condone betting, and I don't know what your audience is about, Rossi brothers. But I think that the over under on Royals wins at maybe like 76 or 79. I think it's 76. If I were in your shoes, I'd take the over on that.
Yeah, that I think I'm not a betting man myself. But that seems like a pretty attractive over. Yeah. Gotta say, yeah, like 500 easily achievable. I would bet. So
here's hoping.
Yeah. For my Pirates, on the other hand, I would take the under regardless of what it is. I don't care if it's 20 wins. I'm taking the under. But
this might be a rough year for them. I'm not optimistic at all. Does Ryan McBroom still play for the Royals? Is he still on the roster at all?
You mean Ryan McBroom?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
He was last year. I don't think he's on the roster this year, but I could be mistaken.
Got some big pinch hit opportunities or successes last year.
Yeah,
he's a West Virginia guy. I went to WVU.
Yeah,
always pull for the Mountaineers there.
Mountaineer. If anything, I don't think he made the opening day roster, but I could be mistaken.
Okay. Have to look for him.
But, this is maybe in a different vein too of the talking about connecting with people, like with the catsuits and everything. And now, right, that has to be done more virtually. And talking at a screen here. At the start of the pandemic, at the start of like March and April of last year, you made a lot of these daily music videos, put up on Instagram. What was that all about, and what sort of brought you to doing this? And like, do you have a favorite from that, or a favorite memory, or maybe connection that you made while you were doing that too?
Man, that was so music is like sports to me, the great unifier. And there were a lot of folks, including myself, kind of, going through it, trying to figure out, well, if what value do I serve? I'm not going out. I'm not working at the office anymore. I'm not traveling and doing keynote speeches. I'm not connecting to, audience members. So what value do I serve? So every day I'd go to the gym, or when the gyms closed down, I'd work out at home. A song would come on, and I'm like, this is an intense message. Like, this really relates to, something that somebody's going through. And that's the amazing part about music. And one of my favorite fundamentals of FUNdamism is listening to music with purpose. Like, it's one thing to turn the radio on, whatever happens. It's another thing to like want to feel a certain way and find a song that's going to evoke that emotion. So that's the premise, John, that came out of the pandemic, like with these morning, motivational videos, was like, I'd hear a song and it would be in any genre. I'm not a huge country fan, but I'd find a country song that, spoke to me for one reason or the other. And I would sing it and dance it horribly. Right. I mean, I'm not a good singer. And so that was one cool thing. Like, I was trying to show people, it doesn't matter if you're good. It just matters if you're present and you connect with others, and you get out of your head and stop worrying about what everybody else thinks about you, because they're not really thinking about you. And it kind of blew up as a result of that whole philosophy and mentality. Do I have a favorite? Man, I had a lot of favorites. I mean, anything from Karate Kid. I remember The Warrior. I played The Warrior by
nice.
Man, it's an 80s song from I Am the Warrior.
No, but I couldn't name the artist.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just get up my trusty 80s playlist. But dude, I mean, I like, there's a song by a gentleman by the name of Max Frost called Good Morning. Steve Winwood. I liked them all. Like, if I selected a song, I selected it because it was one that spoke directly to my heart. The remix of Today Was a Good Day by Ice Cube. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Like, just all of them. I know that's a cop-out, but
awesome. Yeah. No, I mean, it's
diplomatic.
Right. Having like a playlist, or like you're saying, sort of intentionally choosing a song that like sets a mood or sets a vibe for the day or like makes sense for it. Yeah, it means a lot. Listening intentionally, like you said. So
yeah, for sure.
Buck O'Neill said, baseball and jazz, two greatest things in life. So
That's
I like
exactly
it.
right.
Sports and music. That's all you need.
But I think so. Catsuits, now dotted line, all of a sudden doing stupid morning motivational, music videos. Both of those instances, while manifesting themselves in different ways, are me all of a sudden just like saying, all right, screw it. Whatever happens, happens. Let's just have fun. And you ask what came of it or who did you meet or whatever it may be. It was, we just got selected by the Kansas City Chamber as a small business superstar. I got connected with social media folks and marketing company called Social Apex that does all my videos. We got a write-up in this, this Startland News, which is a Kansas City web publication. People were like, when I didn't post, they'd be like, what's up, dude? Like, I really long for this. People that weren't even engaging on my posts, not even liking them, would reach out and say, hey, what's good? Like, what's with the morning? I've noticed that you haven't been doing them. And so, never underestimate your reach, but the power of just getting out of your head and stop being or living in fear of judgment could really create a lot in life and be a liberating experience.
Man, I need you as like my personal motivation. This is
the
speaking a lot to me.
Podcast available on all outlets, man. And I'll drop nugs. I'll drop little nugs in your ear holes all the time.
Mind blown.
So we gotta collect little wisdoms. Yeah,
dude, it's Rossi Brothers, FUNdamism podcast. It's like right after that. Like, let me get my sports fix in, then let me get my morning motivation.
I like it.
Hand in hand.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're pretty good at this music video thing. And as a Kansas City sports fan, if you could choose a song to make a music video for the Royals right now, so you think about the Royals, it could be their upcoming season, could be just the Royals in general, could be a specific player, but if sorry, I can put you on the spot a little bit here, but if you had to come up with a music video to make for the Kansas City Royals, that being your theme, what song are you going with right now? What music is vibing for the Royals?
Man.
I'm feeling it.
I don't want you guys to get your copyright troubles, but you guys know what that is?
I just heard the first few seconds of it.
I was gonna say it cut out after a little bit at the beginning.
That's Walking on Sunshine by Katrina and the Waves. You got it. Yeah.
Great.
So we're walking on sunshine because opening day, April 1st, April Fools.
Yeah.
And
the day of shenanigans.
All the shenanigans, John. And we're optimistic. We're walking on sunshine. I don't know. I feel like that's what I got.
Are you going on Thursday?
I'm not going on Thursday, although in the event that anybody wants to offer me a ticket or have some shenanigans by their side, I do have it blocked off just in case.
Okay.
Excellent. Yeah.
That's another.
Always got to be prepared.
That's exactly right. Another benefit to being a Royals fan of the year is people oftentimes are like, hey man, are you interested in? Yep.
That's awesome.
Automatic answer. Yeah.
Was it tough last year being a diehard Royals fan? I understand you've obviously supported them in many a game, many a home opener. Was it tough last year having to, did you do a cardboard cutout, having to do the virtual support?
No, I did not. I did look into it, but didn't get our info in time or at all after I heard that we had missed the deadline. But, I'll liken that question to an experience I had in the airport right before the NCAA tournament started. I was all decked out in KU attire. And this gentleman walks up to me and I want to say Atlanta or Minnesota. And he goes, "Hey, are you nervous about this weekend? Like, are you anxious about it?" And I was like, "Man, I don't really get anxious anymore about that stuff." Like, there was a time where my well-being rested solely on the ability of whatever team we fielded to play well. But, now that life has gone on a little bit, we've won a World Series, we've won a Super Bowl, I've seen a championship title from the Jayhawks. Like, I don't, my life isn't aligned with wins and losses and the ability to go out to every game. Did I miss the opportunity to go to the stadium? 100%. And I think that's probably why I'm so amped for this year is, I'm a diehard Chiefs fan, but I would say that my affection for the Royals exceeds that of the Chiefs. And it's probably because of the environment and the experience out at the stadium. It's just a different vibe. Like, it's super chill. Everybody loves everybody. We don't all get belligerent drunk. We're just, it's just a good feeling. Like, the energy is right. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Something about America's pastime thing too, right?
Yeah.
It makes sense that goes along with baseball in particular.
For sure.
The fan interactions and everything.
Now, they do need to step their game up, though. One of the things that I'm going to be candid with you, I'm pissed about, is so historically, one of my favorite parts of Royals season was turning on Fox Sports Kansas City and watching every game. And we slayed in the market. It always, whenever there was a Royals game on, everybody was tuning in. Well, they just negotiated a new TV contract. And unfortunately, anybody on YouTube TV or Hulu or any of the streaming outlets and the bulk of, cable doesn't have access or don't have access to the game anymore. And so I'm pretty, it's the talk of the town.
Right.
One of those
Kansas City.
Gotcha.
But the reason why I bring that up, John, is because when you say America's, favorite pastime, there are some opportunity gaps for MLB to kind of get ahead. And there's a reason why it's the pastime and not, the future time, because we're stuck in, 100-year-old ways.
Yeah, that's for sure. And like, so much conflict too. Like, the last year, all of the collective bargaining, everything. Adam and I spent plenty of time talking about like how frustrating it can be sometimes too, of following baseball and not having them do what they clearly should be doing. Or
for sure.
Yeah.
And why isn't Fernando Tatis or Mike Trout, why aren't they LeBron James? Like, the MLB just does a terrible job of promoting, their best stars and, inviting people to watch.
Yeah, totally.
I agree.
And really making it like a new fresh thing for younger people and kind of building. They have a lot of, I feel like they give a lot of, talk to it and want to try to do stuff, but it's tough to get a foothold, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. Fear of change.
We fear change.
Yeah, indeed.
All right. Well, I think, I don't know what you have on time, Adam, but I think we might be.
This has been great.
Running close to the end here. So I'm gonna have one last question for you, Paul. And we'd like to ask this to everyone. You've touched on it a lot sort of throughout this, but just broadly, why is sports important, or why are sports important?
I think that everybody needs an outlet, whatever that looks like for you, whether it's music or exercise or, sharing a kind word to a stranger or, laughter, stand-up comedy. Like, these are all things that I define as FUNdamism, or fundamentals of a fun and optimistic lifestyle. And for so many, sports provides that outlet, getting you out of your head to focus, for at least, 2 hours, 3 hours on something that's not the stress of your day. And so sports to me is that one of many for me specifically. Now, I will say that oftentimes the line is a little bit blurred, where the thing that is supposed to alleviate stress actually creates a great deal of stress for some. And so finding that balance and realizing that it's not a huge deal if your team wins or loses, but rather the experience of fun along the way, it can really be something that helps take you out of a dark place and get you to a place where you aspire to be.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
Thank you, Paul. And one last thing, I guess, I'll throw the last question out there. How can people who are listening and watching support your work, A, through FUNdamism, and then B, through Noah's initiative there? You mentioned bandages. How can people buy bandages? How can people support that effort as well?
Thanks, Adam. So, one thing, there's a lot of charities out there raising money for pediatric cancer research. We do that as well. But we have a really cool entry point in that, a box of bandages costs, less than $2 from CVS or wherever it may be. And so we do bandage drives all over the nation, whether it's a school or, the Farm Bureau chapter, a local organization, your, corporate job. So you could learn more about how to run your own bandage drive at noahsbandageproject.com. Again, noahsbandageproject.com. From a FUNdamism standpoint, man, like follow me on the IG or Facebook, Adam's favorite social. It's at FUNdamism Paul. I'm on LinkedIn as well. But we got a podcast, the FUNdamism podcast. It's available everywhere the Rossi Brothers podcast is. So if you're streaming that, you're going to stream some FUNdamism podcast goodness. And at the end of the day, man, we're just out here trying to invite people to have a good time in life and empower them to find what that looks like. So if that's you and you're listening, you want to learn more, you can go to fundamism.com or follow us on any of the socials at FUNdamism Paul.
Wow.
Awesome. Yeah.
Well,
Please do it.
Do it.
Great,
Paul, I'm
great.
telling
Well,
you, when we first signed on before we started recording, I asked Paul how he's doing today, and Paul said, Cloud 9 and rising. It's like, wow, I'm not sure I've heard that one before. Rising, like that's pretty good. I'd say I'm on Cloud 9. I'm not sure I'm rising necessarily, but I'm Cloud 9. After this hour, after talking to you for an hour, I'm now rising. I get it. Like
that's our intent.
This is a better day.
To empower, to help folks, man. That's exactly right. Listen, if I was doing any better, there'd be two of me. If I was a dog, I'd be wagging my tail. Like these are all things that you could say. These are
I like it. Start writing this down.
John came
Amazing,
in and brought the noise. He was like, I'm going to be honest. I'm about a 7, but that leaves an area for opportunity at growth. So
exactly. Yeah. Always a growth mindset.
That's right.
Stepping forward.
Well, thanks so much, Paul. This has been amazing. Really appreciate your time today.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Be safe, smile often, have fun, fellas. And to the Rossi Brothers listeners, greatly appreciate your support. Go watch some sports ball, because it'll bring you some joy.
That's right. That's right.
Absolutely.
From the granite of New Hampshire to the banks of Missouri, thanks to all our listeners from points in between and not in between. Till next time, he's John and I'm Adam. Stay classy, Frostburg.